Welcome, everybody. This is Books Cafe. I'm Scott. He's Chaffee-Thanh Nguyen, and we are going to be bringing you a special.
You cut out there. We're bringing you a special holiday edition. Is that what you said? Well, for all you folks out there, Scott's having some internet challenges, as you can see. He keeps freezing up and unfreezing. So welcome to the show. And welcome back, Scott.
Well, I don't know if that played once or three times or what, but Happy New Year, everybody. It's the 29th of December, 2021. I happen to be just beside a beach on the Pacific coast of Ecuador, and unfortunately today my Wi-Fi has been celebrating. Well, it celebrated a little too much yesterday, and today it's suffering. So this is going to be short and sweet, but I did want to do this because Chaffee is an awesome coach, and what is January all about if not new beginnings, new goals, and that sort of stuff. And I really wanted, particularly for you authors out there, for you readers out there, what are the books you want to read? Authors, what are the books you want to start or finish? And so with that said, Chaffee, I'm going to turn it over to you. I may be in and out because my Wi-Fi is great and then it's terrible. So if I disappear, that's why. But so Chaffee, first off, why is goal setting so important?
Well, I just want to preface before you cut off, if you cut off, that we didn't prepare anything here. So thanks for throwing me under the bus like you normally do and just put me on the spot.
This is our 4,576th episode, Chaffee, and we have never yet prepared.
That is true. That is very true. So anyways, goal setting is very important because if you don't know where you're going, then any path will do. And so you have to know what you're reaching for. And, when you're doing goal setting properly, then you actually have a target and a date. And I gotta say that the date is very important because a goal without a date is just a dream. So there's a lot of people dreaming out there wanting to accomplish anything, and they don't do anything about it. And I think, Scott, on one of our shows, I talked about a buddy of mine. By the way, I have a dog whining in the back. So if you hear some whining, it's the dog that's in the kennel in the back. So anyways, I think I talked about a buddy of mine who wanted to start his own business and complained about how he never had any time and that he couldn't get anything done. And, the days were too short. And, it would be great if, this was when I was starting my business. It's like, it'd be great if I could do what you do and start my own business and do something on the side. And for 6 months, he complained about how he wanted to start his own business. And during that time, he did nothing, right? And then come that 6 months, he decided that he wanted to buy a new car. And for the next 6 months, all he did was spend all day, every day, researching new cars. And after the end of 6 months, he bought a new car. So what was the difference between starting his own business and buying a new car? It was the fact that he actually had a goal and he wanted to buy a new car by a certain date. And so he did all this research. Now, he spent probably a good 4 to 5 hours a day researching all these different cars. And that's crazy, I know. Some days it was a couple hours, but that's all he did when we were talking was talk about the different cars that he was looking at. And if he just put a goal about starting a business and spent the time that he did researching car into a business, he would have a business and he would be working on his business. And so it's important that you have a date. It's important that you have goals so that you know what you're going for, you know what you're working towards, and you know what you're going. And by the way, I just want to shout out to Jay Connor. Jay, hey, good to see you out there. Thanks for the comment. Mr. Jay Connor, happy holidays. Just texted you earlier this morning.
Happy New Year, Jay. Glad you're tuning in. So, Chaffee, let's delve into that a little bit deeper because obviously it wasn't a skill level issue. It wasn't a access to resources difference. But there was two things that he said he wanted to do. One he accomplished, one he didn't. And obviously one he put a lot of effort into, and the one he didn't. But why do people say they want to do something and then do nothing?
That's a good question, Scott. I mean, I think everybody wants to do a ton of stuff, and they don't want they don't end up doing a lot of that stuff, and really it burns down to burning desire. Like, what is your desire? What do you want? What's your passion? What's your passion about? It's just like I talk to people all the time that say, "Hey, I want to lose a few pounds and I want to work out, except again, I don't have enough time." Well, then how come somebody else I know works out 3 hours a day and they're fit as a fiddle, right? So what's the difference there? And it boils down to prioritization and passion and urgency. How urgent is that for you in your life? We talk about people that just all of a sudden start working out, and they find out that if they don't work out, like I had a buddy of mine who for years and years wanted to work out, never worked out, and then he went to the doctor, found out that he had high blood pressure, and he was bordering high cholesterol, and the doctor said, if you don't work out, I'm going to put you on some medications, if you don't turn things around. Well, that was urgent to him. He didn't want to go on medications. And so he started working out and he got healthy. And because he got healthy, his blood pressure went down and his cholesterol went down, and he didn't have to go on that medication. And so again, that was the motivation. That was the urgency for him. And that was the desire not to live on medication. And so, we're driven by two things. We're driven either by passion. What are you passionate about? What do you want? And then the other thing that we're driven by is fear and pain, right? What hurts you? What are you afraid of? And what are you afraid of feeling the pain of, right? And so which one's going to be worse for you? Which one is going to motivate you? And oftentimes it's pain that motivates people the most. And the ones that are truly successful are driven by passion. And so if you can figure out what you're passionate about, then you could start. My friend that wanted the business, he, that was a nice idea for him. Only he was passionate about getting a new car. Well, he needed a new car. That was the urgency. And then the passion was getting the right car for him, right? And so he spent a lot of time looking for that right car. Did I answer that question? I went on a few tangents there.
No, I think that you did. One of the things that I remember hearing is you can do anything you want in life. You just can't do everything you want in life. And for me, I've been in Spanish-speaking countries for most of the last 5 years now. And before, I knew sí and gracias and Feliz Navidad. So nothing. And in fact, I didn't even know how to say no in Spanish. But the other thing that I wanted to learn was to dance salsa and merengue and all those Spanish Latin dances, right? So I took 3 or 4 years of doing that. Every Tuesday night I'd go and have an hour class, and that really did nothing for me. So then I went to the Tuesday and Thursday class, and I think if I'd kept it up for the last 5 years, it would have been great, but I traveled instead. And then when I'm traveling, I'm thinking, I have a certain amount of time during the day to do something. And do I want to have a Spanish lesson? A speaking lesson, or do I want to have a Latin dance lesson? Because in both cases, I could have someone come over who could teach me. But to be quite honest, the terms of mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, to do both in 2 or 3 times a week is just not going to happen with my lifestyle and with my work. So I picked learning Spanish, right? So when I get to the point where I feel really comfortable speaking Spanish, I'm going to then flip over and learn the other one. So that's kind of my 2-pronged plan. I have 2 goals, but I can't achieve both of them. And I think sometimes what happens is people don't want to admit that they cannot do 2 things at once, right? And so I really need a car, and I really want to start a job, and one becomes obvious to everybody probably, but the person who wants to start the job and get a new car as to what the priorities are. But in my mind, I feel like that's a real, not having the skill to be able to make that decision, understand the situation to make that decision, is an area where that causes a lot of grief. because, oh my God, I want to start a new business. I've been telling Chaffee for 6 months, and now what do most of us do? Bang, 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 and they beat themselves up for no reason, right? Whereas, and that of course is not at all helpful, right? Because that's a whole bunch of energy that if you spent on what you wanted, you would have got a lot further than beating yourself up. But I just wonder if not thinking about, these are what I want to do. This is what's reasonable for me to do. And this is like my number one. And I'm going to go towards that goal until I get far enough along that I can do another one, as opposed to like, oh, I want to do all of these things. And then how good is it for your self-confidence and self-esteem when you accomplish none of them?
Well, again, you bring up a lot of good points, Scott, and it really boils down to reflection, right? It boils down to looking, over the past year and years, what have you accomplished, and are you happy where you're at? And some people are, as happy as can be where they're at. They're working their 9-to-5 job. They make good income. They hang out with their friends on the weekend. They have a family or a couple dogs or cats or whatever. And they're as happy as can be. They're kind of like on autopilot for their life. And I have friends like that, and I love them, and they're happy. So I'm happy for them. For other people like myself, and I know like you, Scott, we're what you call serial entrepreneurs, right? We are always looking for new things. We're always looking for new adventures and expanding and growing the real, as Jay says, that was on earlier, the real estate between the ears, right? And so because of that, we're driven to search for different things. We're driven to look for new things and do new things. And so really it boils down to, if you've been saying for the past several years that you want to accomplish something and you haven't accomplished it, then you really have to ask yourself, upon reflection, do I really want that? Because I haven't done anything about it. Okay. And so if there's something that you really want, then now it's like, is now the time? And let me preface that by just saying that there's no perfect time for anything. And you just either have to decide to do it or not to do it. Right. So first and foremost is reflect back over the past year or years and say, hey, have I accomplished what I want to accomplish? And if not, what are the things that I've been saying I want to accomplish and I haven't accomplished? And then, are those things that I really want, or are those things that I'm just kind of saying and throwing in the air to make myself feel better? And then, then really sit down and say, what is it that I really want to accomplish? And when it comes to goal setting, you have multiple different time frames for goals. And as you talked about, Scott, you wanted to do a couple different things, only what's first. And so you have your short-term goals, which is something you might want to accomplish in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then you have your intermediate goals, which is the 1 to 3 years. And then you have your longer term goals, which is your 5 or 10 years or beyond that. And so, are you constantly working towards the goals? Now, a lot of people just don't have goals. So that's the first thing is, why we're on this, while we're on this show right now, why we're talking right now is, do you have goals? Have you set your goals? And what are those timeframes for your goals? And if you haven't, then now is a great time to sit down and really think about it, versus just throwing things out. Oh, this would be great. Oh, that would be great. Oh, we could do this and we could do that. So, setting the different timeframes of your goals is very important. And I think that's the first step is really sitting down and thinking, what do I want and when? And those, those two things are really going to drive and get your goals a lot more specific.
That's great advice. And it's really interesting because I never think in terms of short, medium, and long-term goals. And so
that's because you want to do everything.
Well, so I just thought I was going to ask you to share a goal setting process, and you just did. So thank you very much for reading my mind. But I wanted to share mine, and mine has to do with breaking it into 3 aspects of life, 5 aspects of life. I mean. So there's the physical aspect, there's the emotional aspect, there's the mental aspect, there's financial aspect, and the spiritual aspect, right? So what do I want to achieve physically? So, do you want to get fitter? Do you want to practice yoga 3 times a week? Like, do you want to ride a bike? What are the physical types? Learn to box. Like, what are those goals, right? Now, I always look at a 1-year time frame on these things. But so that's, now I'm thinking, well, I should be doing it on a medium and a long term as well, right? So physical is kind of, pretty obvious. The mental is what do you want to learn? So in my case, learning to speak Spanish, right? But there could be, I want to learn more about building websites or podcasting or how to do live streams. I mean, there's lots of different areas that we could have where we want, or I could, if I have a grandson, like how could I be a better grandpa, right? So these are all things that are learnable, and that's the mental aspect. Or it could be playing chess, for example, or something like that gets your mind going. Then the emotional is all about relationships. So, is my relationship with my mom okay? Do I want to improve it? Or with significant others or kids, children, or what are those sort of goals? And then financial, of course, is how much money do I want in the bank? How many cryptocurrencies do I want to invest in? Do I want to buy 10 houses and flip them this year? Like, what are the financial types of goals? I don't want to get out of debt. Would probably be a good one for many people. And then the spiritual one, it can be religious, but it can also be service, right? Serving the community. So we have friends that they go down to Mexico or Haiti and they help build a house, or they go and they spend time on the soup kitchens in the and that sort of thing. So, how do you want to be of service? And to me, the secret to happiness is being of service. The more of service you can be to people, the more happy you're going to be.
I agree with that to a certain extent, Scott. Although I do have a caveat to that, which is that you should be of service to yourself before you can be of service to others. Right? I've volunteered and been part of community service organizations my entire life, and it really it hurts me sometimes when I see all these so kind and generous individuals that are struggling themselves. Right? And so because they're struggling, they want to help others not struggle, when in fact of the matter is they should be helping themselves so they can help more people down the line. And, so, that there's a fine line there that I do want to bring up because I've been part of so many service organizations. It's great to help people, and I fully believe in service, and I fully believe in community service and helping others. Only the first person you should help is yourself. And so I always have that in mind, which is the stronger I am, the better I am, the richer I am, the more people I can help. Right. And so,
I was going to add the Zig Ziglar statement: you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And, but absolutely looking after yourself. I mean, this is what they say in the airplanes all the time, right? When the air thing comes down, don't go and put it on your child, put it on you first. Because if you try to put it on your child, there's no air and you collapse, then you're both going to die. So
absolutely.
And so you make a very valid point.
And it also goes to emotional goals. What you're saying is about your relationships. The first relationship you should focus on is the relationship with yourself. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. And I know I struggled with that for a long time. And until you learn to love yourself and appreciate yourself and all the gifts and the value you bring to the world, you're going to struggle to have a strong relationship with somebody else that, has that same kind of emotional strength. And so you're always going to be looking for somebody to fill a void in you if you don't focus on yourself first. And so, if you haven't really sat down and thought about your emotional state, your relationship with yourself, and how you think about yourself, then we have this thing called negative self-talk. That's part of that remote emotional self. And so, focus on yourself, your relationship with you first, if you haven't, and then expand into other areas.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in those types of inquiries, I've always gotten help because, to be quite honest, I had, people would say to me, "What do you feel?" And I go like, "What do you mean? What do I feel?" Like, and not having no idea what to answer. Not even thinking, well, I could have a choice of happy, sad, angry. I didn't even get to that point. It was just like,
I feel kind of cold, hot.
Yeah. And it took me a long time and a lot of really good coaches and mentors to get me to the point where I can check in and say, yeah, I feel this or I feel that, or understand too. Like sometimes people will have huge headaches or their stomach is in a knot, and they don't understand that that's not really physical. It's a physical manifestation of an emotional problem that they have, right? And so much of what we have going on in our bodies is a reflection of our emotions and the state that we're in. And we just say, oh, I just have a headache, or I just have a stomach ache, or I have this, or I have that, not realizing that, as long as you're not dealing with the emotional issue that's bringing that up, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not something we're taught in school. It's not something our parents usually know very much about. I certainly never learned it. And then it was just
one of the favorite one of the that brought up something that one of the speakers I follow always says about disease, Scott, that you brought that up. Disease is your body in dis-ease, right? And so you're feeling dis-ease, and that's why you manifest a disease a lot of times. Now, obviously, there's environmental factors and other factors as well, and disease a lot of times comes out in a physical form, like you said. And so when you don't have a strong relationship with yourself and with others and everything else that we've been talking about, that manifests in sometimes that dis-ease or that disease.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we have a comment. Thank you, Jane. Really great conversation.
Hey, Jane. Nice. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
Awesome. All right. So we've come to your favorite time of the show, Chaffee. I'll let you guess as we bring this video on. And so, Chaffee, what's your tip for everybody today?
Well, the tip for everyone is really, during these holiday seasons, sit back, relax, and reflect upon what you've accomplished in the past year, what you haven't accomplished the past year or two or more, and think about what you want to accomplish and really ask yourself the hard questions, which is, am I doing what I need to do to achieve what I want to achieve? And if not, what am I going to do different? Because if you don't do anything different, you're going to get the same results. And as we all know, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And so 2022, regardless of what's going on outside of your world, right, outside of your sphere of influence with the world, you can control your world. You can control what's happening around you. And so you have that power, and you can make 2022 your best year ever, or you can allow it. And I say allow it because you're the one that's going to let it happen to affect you and make it to one of your not so best years ever. So
brilliant. My tip is to get a piece of paper, and if you have a paper diary, it's ideal to take the back of the diary and do it there, and write out your physical goals, your mental goals, your emotional goals, your spiritual goals, your financial goals, and just 3 or 4 in each area, and then put it away. It's amazing at the end of the next coming year when you pull that out and you review those goals, how many actually came true just because you wrote it down and said, this is what I want to accomplish. And that's been my experience. Like I've been doing it for about 10 years now. And every January, I take about 3 or 4 days and just sort of sit with myself. I look at the goals for the last year and think of my goals for the coming year. And it's amazing because about 70% of them are done. And obviously, they're done because I wanted to do them. It's not that I forgot, just, some ghost did it or something. But, and then there's about 10% where I'm glad at this point that I didn't accomplish it for whatever reason. I just remember being shocked, going, I put that down a year ago. I'm glad I didn't do it, or I'm glad I didn't accomplish it, or whatever it was, right? So, you let the subconscious look after all of that. But at least you're moving then towards what it is that you have intentionally said that you want, right? And what I'm going to add now to it is a 5-year and I guess a 15 or 20-year plan, like where I want to be. 20-year plan is easy, still breathing.
Oh, come on, Scott. You could do better than that.
Castle in Switzerland.
There you go.
There you go. So thank you very much for joining us, Chaffee. Well, do you have any last words? Because it looked like you were going to jump in and say something.
No, for the long-term goals, just to add, I know we've already done the tip. Let me add another tip. Is for your longer-term goals, make it so big that you cannot accomplish it by yourself, right? Make it so big that you have to go out there and meet people, build relationships, get more resources, because that's going to push you to grow and expand. Because if you have a 20-year goal that you can accomplish this next year, you're not really growing. You're just kind of like doing what you're doing. So for the longer term goals, make it so big, like I said, that motivates you and drives you, that encourages you to go out there and meet new people, learn new things, and experience life. And that's really going to help you expand your horizons. So
Beautiful. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the show. We appreciate you all for joining us, everybody. Thank you, and Happy New Year. We
Happy
hope
New Year.
2022 is awesome. Chaffee, thank you for being my co-host on the show. Really appreciate you a lot.
You too, Scott.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.